Okay, you guys, I'm going to talk about a 9 heads. So funny, but 9 heads is what we're going to refer to when we talk about our fashion croquis. These are our true illustrations. And I showed you guys in class the difference between a typical human, which is about 8 heads in proportion, versus our 9 head figure. So we're just, for this illustration, giving her a little more like long line, a little more length. And to be honest, it's really just for flattery. And I'm trying to remember the history of where 9 heads came from, and it's a certain designer, I think, who first introduced it. Quiz me on that name later. But I do want to just get to the point here with the 9 heads and show you guys how we are going to shape our own croquis. So this is a cool book here because it shows you side by side our proportional 8 head figure, which is, you know, us walking around every day, versus 9 heads. So the vantage point here is the entire body, head to crotch point, totally the same. That added length is legs only. It is long limbs. And Britt created these printouts for you guys, which are amazing because I didn't know until I was flipping through myself, but this is an exact copy of what you guys will see in 9 heads here. So kind of nice to have this in your own hands. And it will walk you through step by step until you get to a forward-facing croquis of your own. So also helpful, 9 heads typically, like I work on a bigger sheet of paper. Maybe I'm working off of like paper that's 12 inches in height or even 14 inches. I like my 14 by 20 pad. But let's say we're just working with letter size. So this template has been made for you, and it's marked out in 7/8 inch heads rather than a 1 inch head. But we, just like our technical flats, we will always start with our center line. And in this case, we're going to refer to that center line as a balance line, because while today's goal is to get us a croquis that is faced forward, that balance line can shift when we start to talk about poses. So we are going to work off of our template here that is for us. But I do want to say one thing that I always find helpful. It's so nice to be able to like look at the breakdown here, page per page. And I've got a couple different textbooks, and I will try to find textbooks in the library and put links to those in Canvas just so that you guys have those to check out. But I'm gonna break this down. So for me, especially when I'm first learning, I like to go in here and note how is every head broken apart. And I want to say it's in the handout as well. Yeah, perfect. So there's a great illustration in here that shows you the breakdown of every single head, and some of these are in half heads. So kind of like talking about half inch, but it's not, it's a half head. So our 0 to 1 is the actual head. So I'm just gonna make a note here. Maybe I make my 1, make a note that that's the head. And then 1.5 here is gonna be your shoulder tip. So you can kind of see here, it's gonna be this actual tip. Let me find a front view. So it'll be this outside shoulder tip that falls at the 1.5 versus the high point shoulder here that leads up to your neck. Okay. And then I love this point of view here because it really shows how things line up, and so important to understand. So then our number 2 will be our bust line. And really cool to see this layout because you can see that this armpit here lines up with the bust and apex. So this is the nipple on the body, whereas the bust line curve falls right under that by maybe 1/3. So like you'll know 2 is your true bust, and you can even put bust slash armpit just to like get your muscle memory going. And then we've got, you can even just mark maybe 1/3 of the way down, bust curve. And then, yeah, center front, we've already marked that over here. And then we know 3 is going to be our true waist. So where we dip in. And then 4 is going to be end of torso / crotch point. Then you can make note that the rest of this is all going to be legs. And then just to bring it back, you can see here, and this again is in your handout, so I know it's very tiny to look at. It's even tiny in my big book, but this will help you. We're at 4 right now, so everything, 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 9 is all legs. And we know our knee break is at 6. And we're gonna want basically our thigh and our knee, our thigh and our calf to be the same length almost, though I say that. We don't. We want our thigh to be 2, we want our calf to be 3. And that's what I guess it is. We've got the bend in the calf that's 2 here. And you'll find book to book, people will shift these ratios. What I'm most familiar is just giving long legs, but everybody's got like a take on this. And again, it is really kind of, it's opinion based, it's kind of preference, what you want to see the fashion figure as, how you want to portray that. So maybe you do want a long torso and you still want long legs, and you can make it all work, but I'm just going to go over really probably one of the most baseline breakdowns for these heads. So we're going to do the knee at 6, knowing that 6, 7 to, this will be, let's say, calf, and then we've got the rest of our leg to 9. And Britt's marked here 9 to 10. I know that's so confusing because we're talking in 9 heads. The actual ankle stops here, and you got to give this girl big feet. So her feet are the whole size of a head. So between 9 and 10, we're going to focus on her feet alone. So I'm going to scooch all this aside to work in my tablet again. And you can place this behind your paper here if that's helpful too, just to see that ruler. But it is also a-okay to go ahead and mark this out on your paper again. So whatever works for you. And then, like I said, these are all done, at least for a letter size paper, in 7/8 of an inch. So let me I'm gonna do a tick mark at every 7/8 of an inch. Okay, gotta get my math in my brain right. Okay, let's see how many heads I've given her. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, cool. So I've got 9 little ticks here on my balance line, and that is how we're going to refer to it for all croquis, is our balance line. So we'll have a balance line, it runs down through the legs once we get to poses. That also notes the weight-bearing leg. So head, super simple, you guys. We're gonna just hold our pencil in the middle of the length of the pencil here, and just like we did on day 1, we need to practice our ovals. So we want it to be this egg shape. We know that 1.5 ways down is where we actually want, hopefully this is in camera view here, the actual low point of shoulder. So this edge here where the arm meets the shoulder. And I'm gonna show you, I can't find this in a textbook, and I don't know if this is like what I was taught in school and it's a little separate than what's in a textbook, but there has to be a breakdown somewhere. I was actually taught to draw this in shape. So I'm gonna draw an upside down triangle. Again, this is my head 1, and this is 1.5 here, which will give us the actual shoulder tip. So I'm gonna do an upside down triangle from here. So it's head 1.5 I'll draw very dark and then come back and erase things if I have to. And then let's see, waist we know is number 3. I'm gonna actually give myself 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 3 is our waist. So I am going to draw a teeny tiny little egg shape here. Super helpful to kind of get used to drawing this when, again, we go to shift weight that is separate from just standing straight on. So I'm gonna draw my triangle down to my waist, and this is really just, again, to understand female form and how wide everything is. So from there, we know we've got waist to crotch point, which is here at 4. So I'm gonna give it another triangle, breakdown here, and then here is where we are going to keep ourselves balanced straight on. And I'm going to draw from 4 to 6 our femur bone. I'm gonna give a little oval here for that joint at our hip, and then draw a straight line that we will fill in with our thigh shape. But just to break this down, okay, so then we've got knees, and then we're gonna take our ankle down to number 9. And draw another little circle for that ankle, and maybe like a little slice of pizza for your foot that we know will then come back in and fill in with toes. So that gives us our leg here, but we do need to come back in with our arms. Girlfriend here has her arms hanging straight. You can see where they hit on body, which is about head 5, so mid-thigh. So maybe you want to extend this line further out so that you know where those arms are gonna hit. Elbow is about equal with waist. So thinking of joints, we're gonna go ahead and put another little ball and socket here, and then come down, give a straight line. They kind of hang out from body. We know elbow's gonna hit here, so I'm gonna do just a little circle here to note that. Bring the rest of the forearm down, knowing that our fingertips will end at 5. So I'm gonna do a soft little pizza wedge here. This is something where preference, if it were to come into play, I would give this girl longer arms. You can see I've got really long arms. None of my sleeves ever fit. It just looks so short to me, but this is literally to standard. Give this girl a neck, and then you would shape that neck down into that shoulder point. So we kind of have like the basis of form, but now let's make it look more like a true body shape. So we want to, again, shape that neck up to the head. Round this out. Let's give her some meat on the bone. Elbows do dip in. Armhole. So we've got that number 2, which is our true bust point. So I am just gonna stick just like 2 dots here so that we can kind of see these all the way over to the armpit. So here's our armpit line here. Under bust is going to be, like I said, it's like 1/3 of the way down. Okay, kind of like wraps and relaxes up to the rib cage. But that tells us we need that armpit to be here. So we'll curve that to our elbow, kind of bring that in. Forearms have a little bit of meat on them. So because we're talking in shapes of triangles and circles, ovals, we want this to have an oval shape to it, but it's a very tapered oval down to the wrist. And then opens back up for a hand. And for this girl, let's go ahead. I'm gonna shape out a thumb here for her. We'll talk more about hands and feet in another discussion, because hands and feet take a lot of time to really master. So I always like to focus on my thumb, focus on my pointer finger, And then usually I wrap everything up and under. So I'm just gonna kind of do little like zigzaggy line here, ocean waves again, and then kind of give her some fingers to fill in. And maybe you see those on the backside. Okay, so then coming back to just recognize all this one more time. And you can work left to right, or you can work your way down and then work your way down the other side. So let's just go ahead now and loose. Okay. Down to our wrist. Give this girl a thumb, give her a pointer finger. Yikes. Let's give her some other fingers that are wrapped up and under with our ocean waves and a couple lines so we know she's got 5 fingers there. Show those up and under from the back side, so you just have to think about how the hand hangs. Okay, and then coming back up to that armpit point, and we know like there's like a little bit of folds to the skin, just like there are clothing. So maybe that armpit point finishes with a straight line, but then we come back to our rib cage. It's a little further out, up and under and behind that armpit point that you will see here. So we'll shape that in for the waist and then back out to then meet up with our thigh. And then knees, you have to we have this little, maybe patella here, but you do need to note that your knees will have a little shape to them on body as well. And it can be just a very slight curve, but you do need to differentiate your thigh from your knee, from your calf. So we'll dip in just a smidge under that knee to bend back out and then really narrow it to the ankle. And crotch point is right here, so level with our hand. Nope, I lie. That's my crotch point. So crotch point here, I'm gonna give her a thigh gap because she's a croquis. And from that little point here, the actual crotch itself, I'm coming back down to this thigh. Love erasers. Okay. Again, that little to the knee here. We're gonna take it in to then take it out for that calf and then dip it in drastically for our ankle. I think this looks so squatty to me because I'm used to my 14-inch paper. Okay, so from the waist again, we're coming out and picture these straight lines as bones, like they're the bones of the body. So we're gonna come out, give a little teeny tiny rounded line, almost ball shape here for the knee to come back in, just a smidge, dip it out for the calf, and then take it narrow for the ankle. And then thigh, we're coming from the crotch point here down. And then feet, I start with my pizza wedges and then give some toes, and you can shape the toes however you want. This is not a hard drawing for feet, but let's say big toe, maybe you want Roman toes, I don't know. So maybe your line here comes to a point at the big toe and then brings itself back up to that pizza wedge. So again, hands and feet are not our focus today. We really need to practice this division of the body, and you can even bring these legs closer together. So practice on how you want these bones to kind of stack. Maybe if I drew this again, I would bring these lines closer in line with my, they are kind of in line with my shoulder, but maybe I'd bring them in just a smidge more narrow than my shoulders and my hips. Okay, so that is my 9-head figure drawing. We know navel sits here. And I do want to talk about faces very quickly because I will tell you, hold on, I'm going to bring out my book again. Faces are my enemy, but maybe this semester I'll nail them. So every face breaks down into this rectangle, which is kind of wild. But if you were to fold a paper in half and fold it in half again, that is the midpoint of your whole face. So it seems kind of crazy. Just and this is not all forehead, and that's the confusing part. When you look at this, you think, gosh, what a like massive forehead, and that is not the breakdown of this. So we'll take it a little smaller scale. So you do want to find kind of your foursquare, and then even from there, you want to maybe come back to this diamond pattern, and that will help form really just like the peak of a hairstyle and then like the bottom of the lips. So we'll talk about that technique just because I want you guys to understand, just like our 9-head figure, how this face really maps out. So I'm gonna just give us a little harder egg shape here. But first thing I do, foursquare. So we're gonna divide this head in half. And I'll be honest, most of my croquis, I just keep this little line here, and that is what I do. But I love giving it hair. But we're gonna talk about now the diamond. So that diamond does not start at the top of this egg. So you're gonna come just a bit lower. So it's almost, again, a halfway point between the actual like top and half point here. So we're gonna think in quarters, up and down, and then bring the edges of that diamond out to the very widest points of this oval. So knowing that, let's talk first about the eyes and the ears. Let's go ahead and give this girl some ears. Ears sit right at the halfway point of this face. And then to draw ears, I'm just gonna do like a very simple shape. So it'll curve from the head up and out, bring it in, and then bring it back down. And then I keep a simple ear. I just do like maybe a little C curve here for the turn, and you give it a little dash for the earlobe. And this is messy because it's not inked in, anything like that. I'm just being very sketchy with my pencil. Now, equal with the ears are going to be your eyes. And I do, when I start out, I do a hollow eye just to get my crescent. So it is an even, at this point, shape top and bottom. This head is so tiny. And the eyeballs, you want closer to the outside edge than to your inside edge. Okay, so open eye, and we want like a little point here, not a soft oval. So then from there, we're gonna draw the nose. I have seen so many times where people will try to draw a nose like this. You don't want a nose like this. You want to break it down in parts. So the first part of our nose, and this is going to be halfway between midpoint and the actual diamond here. So it's like an eighth of the head is where we're going to break the whole length of the face down. And for that, we want to just note our nose. And you can note the end of a nose, like this little part here. I think it's called the septum, with just a little curve. It's a super sweet way to mark the nose. If you wanted to, you could give it like just another little shape here. And then for the outer edges, right between the eyes, give it like 2 little lines, because again, this is a straight on view. And this bridge falls right in between the eyes. So just to give you a big look at what should be going on here, because this looks a little messy, is this. And then ears are hanging out here. So we have the nose. You can go into more detail. Maybe you want to give it just a little, another little curve here to form the outside. You just do not want to connect any of these lines. They're more shape and shadow. So that gives us what we would have here for that nose. There are these lines between the 2 eyes for the bridge. And then you can come back in and fill it in with a mouth. So right at the bottom of that diamond is where your lips would lie. And for lips, these can be pretty simple too. A lot of people like the bow and arrow lips because it seemed like when people think of lips, that is what they think of. I should not have drawn that so low. I was just showing shape and I was not showing placement. Okay. So then, let's see, we want little bow and arrow lips. Now we made that diamond shape over here for a reason, because we want those lips to then come down to that point of the diamond. You soften it up. So perfect Cupid's bow and arrow. And then just for where the lips turn in, create like a little tiny dark line here, just a shadow. And you can go and fill it in whatever. But this is the layout for the face. Now for the hair, let's see, this like egg head is up here, but we know our diamond is here. So we're gonna begin our hair at this point. And you can keep this easy, like think of everything like a shape. So this is the top of the head here. Let's say we just want maybe a slicked back pony. And we know we want a part. So we'll draw her part pretty darn heavy. And then we can just give her hair that's pulled back. And again, just like the top of the head here, this hair is not a straight line. It's gonna have, roots to it, a little bit of differentiation in the line. Okay. And then you can go back in, and it really does remain, for the most part, an egg shape, but you can, from your established egg, come back in. You need that jawline to hit equal with the lips, so you can come in and like maybe you want like a small chisel or shape here to the jawline down to the chin. But just know that jaw is about even with the actual opening of your mouth. And then you can come back in and you can give it a pupil. So let's take her from being a little bit freaky to a little bit more human. So we'll draw that circle. You do not want a circle within the eye. It is actually cut off within that sliver. Here. And because these lines are hard to control once you start to add like your medium to fill everything in, I don't go in and add eyelashes, but you definitely can. Eyelashes are really cute on like a closed eye, or like when you're stylizing things. But for this, I really just keep my eye to the almond outline, the pupil that lives within, and the iris itself. And then just to make this so it's not so freaky, you want to like leave a little like white space within the pupil itself so you have a glimmer. Almost like if you were a kid, drawing a balloon, you want to have that highlight within the pupil. So just give yourself a space to have some sort of highlight within if you have a larger piece of paper, and that gives you some freedom to really hone in on those details. And then of course, no girl can leave home without her eyebrows. So let's give her some eyebrows that sit just right above her eyes. And then also to note, those eyebrows, they run from one side of the eye to the other. So same width as your eye itself. And then the neck is also, I'm just gonna keep talking. The neck, you do not want it to be too skinny. Like if you look at the neck on a true human being, it needs to be enough to support the actual head itself. So you don't want it as wide as your jawline, but you don't want it to be only as narrow as your chin. So it really needs to come somewhere in between this break of jawline and the chin. And then you'll come out to your shoulders from there. Come down. Clavicles, armpit, and downward. Okay. Man, I have not drawn one of these in a long time. So hopefully this helps you. I do want you guys to practice this over and over again, just to get a feel for it. And you can use your templates that you're given. It really is helpful to mark these out, especially with your first time going through it. Also, keep your reference pages handy when you're working through these, just so you can kind of see the build. And again, like even with our flat sketches, you know how I say we work top down, it is same for these. You kind of want to work your way from 0 to 10. So just take it slow, take your time, try all the methods that are available to you. You can work with lines first, or maybe you don't want to. Maybe you want to just begin by filling that body in, and that's a-okay as well. But play around. I would give this at least 6 tries, and I really just need to see the form alone. So, you know, kind of like what we have here just given to us. I just want to see the outline of the body in more of like a true figure form. So I would try this maybe 6 times through, and then yeah, I'll take a look at it when I'm back, and we can talk over any points that we have to discuss. You guys can also reach out to me on Canvas, and yeah, hopefully that is enough of a lesson for tonight in the breakdown of every head. And again, I will put links to books at the library that you guys can check out that will also help you, because it's kind of neat to see style from style, book to book. So yeah, thank you for watching.